Welcome to the Entrepreneur Strategies Podcast, where we learn from successful entrepreneurs on how to scale your wealth, health, and family well being. This is a podcast focused on providing valuable insights, inspiration, and strategies for entrepreneurs and individuals that are passionate about business growth and success. And today, I am very excited. I've got on the show, I've got Sarah McNamara. Sarah McNamara is a real estate agent and a business owner and a real estate investor working with Summit Sotheby's in Salt Lake City, Utah. And the interesting thing about Sarah and I is I actually met her, I want to say 5 years ago now, maybe even 6 years ago, when I started the home buying process. And that was sort of my into the Salt Lake City market. But we had seen at the time she was at a previous brokerage, and we had seen a sign as we were driving down the neighborhood that we wanted to live in, my wife and I. And we, well, more so her, then went to Instagram and the website and looked at all of the realtors that were there, and she wanted to find the right person that she felt comfortable with. And she came across Sarah's information, and we decided that we wanted to work with Sarah. And so that was how our relationship started, and she helped us get into the Salt Lake City market, and that really started a big journey for us. And so I am very excited to have on the show Sarah McNamara. So Sarah, how are you?
Hi, doing well. How are you?
I'm good. So if you don't mind, let's get your side of that perspective from that story. So Rachel, my wife, gives you a call, and do you remember
hmm
all of that and how that went?
Absolutely. Yeah, she called me and she had said that she was a realtor as well. And so she was just trying to find a good fit. And yeah, we kind of hit it off almost right away. And then she sent you as the scout out to come and look at some houses. And we looked around and found you guys the
Yeah.
perfect spot.
Yeah. It was very fond memories because I remember a couple of times, flying out to Salt Lake City from California and driving around the various different neighborhoods with you. And I just remember being able to hit it off with you so well. We had such great conversation, and my wife did as well. And then ultimately we ended up buying a house completely sight unseen. So that was pretty awesome because you were our eyes and our feet on the ground for us.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, we went up and saw the canyons too, I think, didn't we? We went up to
yeah, we
like
did. Yeah, we
Big
drove up
Cottonwood, didn't we?
Big
Yeah.
Cottonwood.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
I
That
had
was
to
my
show
first
you
time seeing
the
it
ski
too.
resort. Yeah. hmm
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah. So now you're a successful real estate agent, but I want to get a little bit more of a backstory going into that. So tell me how, let's say, in college, right? You're in college, and was real estate something that you knew that you always wanted to be a part of? Were you fond of real estate? Like how did that all come together?
I was not at all thinking that that's what I was going to be. So I actually started off as a pre-pharmacy major in college and quickly learned that organic chemistry was not my friend. And so I switched over into, believe it or not, financial planning for a very hot minute. And when I did no classes in financial planning and immediately switched out. And then I became a teacher. And so I was a teacher for, I think, about 9 years. And I loved helping people, but it was really tough for me to go home and like take all of that with me. Kids go through a lot of stuff, and so that kind of emotional burden was hard for me. So started to think about other things that I could do to help people, but maybe in a more positive light. And real estate came up as one of those options. So I very quickly studied for the test and learned a lot and kind of jumped in feet first.
Yeah. That's and what a crazy roundabout way of getting there. So the tell me about being a teacher. First of all, what age kids were you working with?
All over the place. So I started off doing fifth grade. And so I was a fifth grade science teacher. And from there, I got my certification in special education. And so then I started working with fifth and sixth grade special education students with reading and math. and still felt like I wasn't making a difference. I felt like I could make a broader difference. And so I signed up to get my master's in counseling and became a school counselor. And so I counseled for 1 year in elementary school, and then I actually moved out to Utah. This was in Florida. And I moved out to Utah and was a high school counselor for, I think, 3 years. So
Okay. Okay.
very different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I can imagine that those counseling skills probably translate over to what you're doing now very, very well.
Absolutely. Yes. It's almost the same formula.
Yeah. And so I guess I want to specifically talk about what were those moments like from being a teacher and then moving into going into real estate, which is essentially being, you're a business owner, right? And so then everything is on you. And not only that, there's a lot of different skill sets there, right? You have to be relatable. You have to understand how to run a business. You have to be motivated. You have to know you got to understand sales and marketing. And so
hmm
different personality trait and a different mindset than, being an entrepreneur or business owner, grind it out kind of a thing. So what was that? How did that spark in your mind to do that? And then what were those moments like as you decided you wanted to make that transition out?
Totally. So I think it was, my headphone fell out, sorry. I think it was, I've always been a hard worker. And honestly, I always feel like I've kind of been an entrepreneur when I was younger. I danced, and I had to pay my way to go to Europe, and we like danced on tour in Europe, and I sold suckers, and that's literally how I paid my
Yeah.
way to Europe. Um, and so I feel like it was always kind of in me to just kind of hustle and work hard.
Yeah.
And so it did well for teaching because I was very motivated and, really wanted to work with the students. But moving into real estate for me, I ripped off the Band-Aid. So I quit at the end of the school year and had no other plan but to go feet first into real estate. And so for me, it was kind of a sink or swim situation where I knew I had to really start getting out there and start hustling and working super hard in order to make it.
Yeah, yeah. And what I find interesting about that is, behind most successful entrepreneur stories is a kid that started a business and put
Yeah.
themselves out there, whether it be baseball cards on the corner of the street, whether that be Girl Scout cookies, those skills that we learn as a kid when we get comfortable being uncomfortable as a kid, talking to many different people and just trying over and over and over. And it's so funny because those stories always, I shouldn't say always, but very likely translate over to being a successful entrepreneur later in life, whether you knew that you were going to, end up being a real estate agent, business owner, or not. I mean, it's funny. Eventually, later in life, you get to that point. So
Yeah. Yeah. For
and that's
me,
something. Go ahead.
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it's something I'm mindful of with my own son. Those are things I want to encourage in him is to talk to as many people as you can and to start whatever business that is and just put yourself out there and try over and over and over. And so um, it's amazing how that can translate over into being a successful real estate agent or business owner in general.
Yeah. I
So
don't
tell
know if
me,
my parents actually had that plan for me, but I really wanted to go to Europe. So,
yeah, yeah, that's incredible. So now you're at this point that you're ready to make that jump. You're motivated. You've learned some of those skill sets. Why real estate? I mean, you could do anything in the business owner realm or sales realm. How come real estate specifically?
real estate was just one of those things that I honestly just kind of talked through with my husband, and we thought that my skills from being in education and with counseling could translate pretty well. I never really see myself as a sales agent, but in real estate, I felt like I could at least trick myself into saying, I mean, I am a sales agent, obviously, but that I was helping people still. And so
Sure.
that's really how I looked at it throughout I still look at it that way, is that I'm not a salesperson. I'm able to help people. And that's what kind of drives me to continue moving forward.
Yeah, yeah. And so you make the jump. Being a real estate agent, I know just from having worked with real estate agents, is it's not easy. And I think a lot of people make the assumption that it is, right? It's just you get into the business and commissions are just going to rain down. And look at where home prices are right now. How can you not make a good living doing that? But it's not that easy. I mean, it's not that easy from a standpoint of getting clients, and it's not that easy from a standpoint of even going through the transactions. So tell me what those first couple of years looked like for you.
Yeah, they were terrible. Lots of tears, crying,
Yeah.
feeling like I was just kind of running and like hitting my head against the wall over and over and over again, honestly. And there was a moment where I really just thought, you know what, I'm not cut out for this. I can't do this. I'm gonna try to find something else. But I've just never been one to give up, especially give up on myself on anything. And so I told myself that I was going to try one more time and give it everything that I had. And luckily it panned out. But I would say the first 2 years were really rough. So I moved to Utah a couple years prior. I knew no one. I have no family, no connections, nothing. And all of a sudden now I'm trying to go out and meet people and, try to, being a new agent, tell them that I was, a competent agent and that I could help them with their real estate transactions was pretty difficult.
Yeah, yeah. And what I find interesting is you had felt like giving up, but you didn't. And is such a marker of a successful person, is the when times are tough, and even if you feel like quitting, pushing through that. And so what do you think internally that was the deep, like what drove you to keep pushing through that? Was there any sort of back, like, you had a husband at the time, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I mean, was it for, family? Was it for what pushed you through that moment? Do you know?
I really honestly don't know. I'm just someone that I can't tell you one thing that I've really like given up on. And so sometimes it's to a fault, right? Like my husband's like,
Yeah.
give it up, like you're done, like you're not doing this.
Yeah.
But there's just not very many things that I've given up on. And I felt like I could push just a little bit more and see if I could give it a little bit more if I really gave it. When I looked inside, I didn't think that I had given it 100%. And so I was like, okay, I feel like if I'm really going to change paths and change directions, that I'm going to give it 100% one more time all the way. And then I'll know that, yeah, you're right. You aren't cut out for this, or you can't do this. And then I guess I would feel better about putting that to rest.
Yeah. Yeah. And and as you were working through these first couple of years, and starting to pick up some traction, what were some of those initial challenges that you had to push through?
A lot. I mean, I had to first try to get clients, and then be competent enough and confident enough to, help them through a transaction, which most likely was probably one of the biggest transactions of their lives as well. And so I felt like there was a lot on the line, just in general, just in the day to day. And then honestly, being commission based is hard, right? So,
Hmm.
not getting paid for several months at a time, and then all of a sudden getting a check and, trying to, okay, budget it out and balance it out, and then, going right back through it kind of over and over again, for the first little bit was really challenging for me.
Yeah. And what were some of those strategies for getting clients at that time? Was it word of mouth? Did you do like flyers? How did that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, it had to be a lot of sweat. So usually it's either sweat equity or like actual like monetary equity. And for me, it was sweat equity. So I did open houses was my big thing. And I would do two, three a weekend. Sometimes like back to back. I basically was everyone's go-to for open houses and just starting to meet people that way. And again, in my mindset, I wasn't a salesperson, so I was like, oh, if they're coming to the open house, they want information on the house and they want information on the market, and so then I can like teach them and give that to them. And so I felt really comfortable in the open house setting because I didn't feel like I was going out and like prospecting or cold calling or anything like that. That people were coming to me, and so it was kind of on me to give them whatever information they were seeking, and then hopefully work with them.
Yeah, yeah. And that's so relatable to any business owner who's really starting off. I mean, the low-hanging fruit is really where you should go to first, get comfortable with that before you start putting yourself out there and before you're really years into the business. There's low hanging fruit that should be taken advantage of and practiced. I mean, that offers you
Hmm.
practice. The open houses, because they are coming to you. And it is they already have a reason to buy whatever services that you offer. And in this case, it's that the house that you're holding open. And so I think that's a really good strategy for any business owner, but obviously it worked for you. And so I know now you're quite successful. Has any of those marketing strategies changed? Do you do anything differently today versus the first couple of years?
Yeah, I feel like just taking really I realized pretty quickly that taking care of your clients will create kind of that word of mouth. And then you'll get some referrals. And I still hold all of my own like listing open houses and stuff like that, but I'm not out there doing three, four open houses a weekend. But really taking care of your clients and making sure that they feel like answering their questions before they even have questions, and really making sure that they feel like they've been taken care of throughout the whole process and even thereafter, after they've closed, that you're not just ghosting them. I think really helps to kind of create that word of mouth, and referral business. That basically my business now is probably, I would say, like 90% referral.
That's amazing. Yeah. And that's really very low effort and obviously a very low dollar cost. And so how did you craft sort of that process that has created such a referable business for you?
For me, it's all about systems. And so I use Asana. And I have what I really wanted to do, especially when I started to get referral business, was to make sure that the people that they were referring to me were getting the same care, the same touches, the same everything. And so I really wanted to kind of create this repeatable business that everyone felt like they were being taken care of. And so I kind of created a bunch of systems during COVID in Asana, and use that downtime when we weren't really connecting and going out to like hunker down on my business and like really create systems. And so I have a little checkbox for every step of the transaction, before the transaction, when I first meet someone, and then I have steps for after the transaction to just keep in touch and reminders and stuff like that. And so I think that that helps me sleep a lot better at night, because I just know that like I'm
Sure.
looking every day at it. I'm making sure that everybody's caught up and they feel taken care of. I feel like I've been taking care of them.
Yep.
And it's just helped me create a repeatable business.
Yeah. And I think that's so intuitive of you. And I wonder if a little bit of that is the previous teacher in you, because, you had to
Definitely.
have an academic plan, a teaching plan that you have to run through with the kids throughout the school year. And so that clearly was a skill that you learned that translated very well and very intuitive to use it in real estate because I can say just even from my own experience in talking to real estate agents, I think there's a lot that are flying by the seat of their pants and not because not because they're bad at, well, I shouldn't say, it's not because they're not intentionally trying to be good at business. It's just they don't have that business mindset, and they're very busy and they're frantic and very dopamine driven with the emails and the phone calls and the text messages. And I get it, it's a very busy business, but that's exactly why you need systems and processes and workflows and a system like Asana that's going to manage it all. So, I mean, I give you kudos because that's that's a really smart way to go about your business, and that's why you've been so successful in sort of a dog eat dog world. Why and how did you? Let's talk about those processes and workflows because I do think that's very important for all business owners. I think sometimes we say, I've got it in my head. I know what I need to do. But I think if they actually documented and kept track of what they were doing by just going off of memory, they're going to realize that they have actually missed some steps there. And so, what kind of workflows? What kind of workflows do you think are the most important ones, or what kind of systems are the most important in the world of being a real estate agent?
I think honestly, I mean, it's true that I could probably do a transaction in my sleep, but someone, I don't remember who it was or if I read it in a book or something, but someone said that even pilots have checklists that they need to do pre-flight, and that everything they have to, make sure that everything's taken care of. And for whatever reason, that kind of stuck with me of, yeah, I could do this in my sleep. But also, I don't want to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and go, oh, shoot, I forgot to send these disclosures or something like that. And so having those checklists has really just helped me to make sure that I'm, on my game. And then going back to your question, I think the most important is really that initial meeting when I'm meeting with a client and kind of those initial follow-up steps. To make sure that they're feeling like we're doing the right searches and we're looking at the right properties. And honestly, when it comes time to write an offer, I have a whole workflow on questions to ask the agent. If I'm representing the buyer, questions to ask the agent, the seller's agent, addenda clauses and verbiage so that I don't have to spend time rewriting things. I'm just copying and pasting what I've already kind of implemented.
Yep.
And then secondly, I would say just the follow-up process after the closing, I think, is so critical for people. So it's everything from asking for a review to making sure that I'm updating I keep all of my own stats for listings and for buyers and things like that. And so updating all of my statistics and making sure that I'm following up with them, making sure that they've moved in okay, making sure there are no issues, making sure that I'm sending them house anniversary gifts, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. That's very good. Yeah, I mean, and you obviously have a very successful business and referral business because of it. I think that is very evident when you're working with clients, and that's why they keep referring you because they feel taken care of because it feels like there is a system in place and not a guessing game. So I think that's fantastic. So you're already a very successful agent. Where do you go from here? How do you, what's the ultimate goal with the business, and B, if it is growth, how do you scale from this point? Because I imagine there's some sort of time capacity restraints in your business.
For sure. I mean, I of course would love to continue to scale up, but I don't want to be. I don't have no desire to be like one of those mega agents that does hundreds of transactions a year. Eventually, I think it'd be great if I could find a business partner and start kind of handing some stuff over to working kind of side by side with them, but then eventually kind of handing stuff off to them. One of my goals is to retire fairly early. And so working towards getting myself set up so that I can eventually just kind of hand the business over would be ideal.
Yeah, and I do want to focus on that. First, I want to give people an idea of those time capacity restraints that I'm talking about, because I think there is still a small perception out there that real estate agents are door openers, and how can that be so difficult? But can you shed some light on like what a typical day in your world looks like, start to finish?
Never know. That's the quick answer. I honestly, I wake up fairly early and try to spend some time. I feel like morning time is the best to kind of spend with my husband, and I have 2 dogs. And so spending that quality time with them, because I really, at the end of the day, don't know what my day is going to look like. I always calendar everything out and have, some set appointments, but inevitably I have to leave room for, phone calls or, kind of crisis situations that might come up that I need to handle. But I would say an average day, I probably start work around 8, get to the office. I really try to time block. And so the beginning of my morning is really just filtering through emails and texts and making sure that I haven't missed anything overnight. And then kind of writing out a list of what my day is going to look like. This is my day today.
And that's a very lengthy list. I can say I just saw it, and it's
yeah,
there's a lot on there.
It's pretty long. And going through that, and then also giving myself grace and knowing that I can't always finish everything every day, because I do have to give myself some time. But kind of prioritizing and putting kind of what the most important things are each day, and then making sure that I'm getting those done. And yeah, a typical day is doing that, negotiating contracts, doing some showings. I have a listing that's coming up today, and so prepping and making sure that all the disclosures and everything is ready to go for that. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, but the day flies by. So that's one of my
Yes.
favorite things about real estate.
Well, from that list, I can imagine you start your day, and then before you know it, you're looking at your watch or your phone really and saying, where did that time go? Because I know when I try and knock out a bunch of items, it can be daunting, because it just doesn't feel like you have enough time in the day to get them all done. And oftentimes it does spill over into the next day. But I think what you said in the beginning of that, I think, is really important, because yes, the life of a real estate agent, particularly a successful real estate agent like you, is busy. It's very, very busy. But I liked that you said that you start your day, and this is probably going to tie in, I'm guessing, with the early retirement. And I do want to dive further into that. But you said you start your day with your husband. And so I find that to be, and that's actually how you started your conversation. And I find that to be really important, because you didn't say, I start my day thinking about what I need to accomplish that day. You said, I start my day with my husband, and that was the first thing that would even hit your mind on your day. And so I think that's so important for us as entrepreneurs to be mindful of our family lives. And if this is your first time listening, this is really what the show is all about, because as entrepreneurs, as we're scaling our businesses and creating success for ourselves, it can just continue to perpetuate and to feed itself. And oftentimes other areas of our lives start to neglect, and that causes burnout. And that actually eventually, ultimately, leads to the business not doing so well, because it's important to balance out our lives. And so this is a show to inspire others who are scaling their businesses to be able to find ways to balance out their lives. And so tell me about about that and what's so important about starting your day with your husband?
Yeah, so starting the day with my husband and dogs, we go on a walk first thing in the morning. I don't check my phone. I don't look at anything. I don't look at emails, even if I knew that there was something pressing the night before. I just feel like if I wake up and look at my emails or look at my texts or whatever, that it's going to start the day off in kind of like a frenzy. And so we walk with our dogs. We do like 2.5 miles a day in the morning. And that's our time to kind of catch up, plan for the day, talk to each other about what we think our schedules are going to be, and really just enjoy that quality time together. And I feel really, I'm very protective of that time, and I make sure that we're doing it as often as we can. And I feel good about that time frame because I feel like it's very reasonable to not be responding to people's phone calls and texts at 6:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really try to like set those boundaries. I start working around 8, but I actually don't typically respond to emails or texts or phone calls or anything until 9 a.m. I think real estate agents definitely try to be kind of the 24/7 agent, and I personally think that can lead to burnout pretty quickly. And so I really try to protect those like 3 hours in the morning before
Mm-hmm.
I start my day.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's so great. And not only to your response of being the 24/7 agent and that can lead to burnout. Not only that, I personally don't think it leads to your clients not respecting you as much, and it probably makes you less referable because when you start answering to their every beck and call at any hour of the day, that's when they start looking at you as a transaction person, and I think that makes you much less referable. I think for a while, technology was creating this business environment where yep, we're available all the time. You want to text us? Do you want to send us a DM on Instagram? Do you want to, whatever it is? And I think that's going away. I think people are respecting that people do have boundaries and personal space. And the people who stand up for that personal space, I think ultimately end up being more successful because their clients actually respect them and don't treat them as a transaction or what can you do for me lately. And I also think it's very important that you said that you're doing all of this, that you protect those first hours in the morning because people very popular right now is your morning routine, right? And how you
Mm-hmm.
start your day. And I think that because you start your day in the present, not thinking about work and focusing on what clearly matters most to you and should matter most to you is your family. And so protecting those first moments when you wake up and your mind, those first moments when you wake up, I think is so important. And so tell me a little bit about what are those conversations like in the morning? I mean, how do you keep work off?
It's
I know that
difficult
you.
sometimes.
Mhm. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, yeah.
But honestly, it's really just about kind of connecting. We're always kind of talking about. We do talk about what our day is going to look like, but we don't kind of like delve into any work conversation, if that makes sense. But we're just more like planning what the day is going to look like. And then honestly, it's like a lot of our walks and a lot of our time is just kind of thinking about the future and planning for the future and like things to look forward to and things that we kind of want to accomplish together. And I think for me, it's a great way to start my morning because then I have some motivation. I'm not, just immediately waking up this. I got to make my list for today. I got to do this, this, and this. It's more relaxed and both present and future focused. And that kind of fuels me throughout the day, especially if I'm having a hard moment or something like that. I can kind of think back to our conversation that we had in the morning and, okay, like refocus and, get whatever needs to get done.
Y- Yeah, yeah. And I want to end on this early retirement you talked about because I think that's interesting. And I think it's great. It's something that I am always encouraging my business owner clients to do because um, there needs to be a purpose in life, something that you're working towards, and something greater than the business. And I think sometimes the business can be what life is about for people. And they almost realize that that wasn't what life should have been about when maybe it's when they don't have a chance to do anything different. And so I'm curious to know what what do you what is early what do you define early retirement as, and what does that life look like for you?
Hmm. Um, Great question. To me, I think it looks, I mean, I think we'd like to be in our 50s at some point. Um, and for us, it's just a little more relaxing and not so work focused because I agree. I feel like a lot of people are retiring almost later, it seems like, later and later. But then their bodies and potentially their minds aren't as clear and in the moment, and you can really enjoy those things. And so for us, that looks like, just taking it easy and working kind of when we want to, if we want to, and not so much like working because we have to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it does. Well, I have really enjoyed this conversation with you, Sarah. Sarah, I've known you for a while, but I have even learned a little bit more about you, and I'm actually I'm really pleased to hear like the behind the scenes stories of your day to day job and how intuitively you've created your business to run on systems and workflows in a business that doesn't typically do that, but also how much you're focused on your family and understanding that all of this success is for is not for more success. It's to actually enjoy life, doing the things that you love with the people that you love. And I think that's really fantastic that you were able to do that. So, Sarah, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for being on Entrepreneur Strategies. And I can't wait to keep chatting with you.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Take care, Sarah.
Thanks.